Okay. Peace and shalom, family. What's good? It's Divine Prospect, Kingdom Harbinger Ministries channel. Thank you all for tuning in. Give me a second. Let me go ahead and share this link. I know it's Thursday. It's Touchdown Thursday session that we're about to do. It's not going to be that long because going more in depth is going to transition into either Freestyle Friday or Saturday Night Live this weekend. So y'all can stay tuned for that. But with this, I just wanted to give a couple of updates just to prep a couple of things before I go in depth either Friday or Saturday. Because it's been a while since I went live. You know what I'm saying? I know people are asking like, yo, Divine, you good? What's going on and whatnot? So let me just do this real quick. And it ain't gonna be too long because I gotta get up in the morning. So hold on for 1 second. Let me share this real quick. Okay. All right. So I'm sharing this real quick. Man, these thumbnails be looking crazy, man. Hold on real quick. Let me share this real quick. All right, so I'm gonna give a second for y'all to jump in. I see some of y'all jumping in right now. Appreciate that. All right, so let me give some shout outs. Shout out to Obadiah, Yisrael, Tehera, Beloved, Nine Night, The Most High Child, Lady Watt, J Lockhart 25. Anybody else is in here, you want to shout out, hit 1, and I'll go ahead and shout you out before we get started. All right, so I'm gonna touch on a few things real quick. And I can't get too in depth because it's Thursday. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna have to save that for Friday or Saturday. All right. But yeah, I'm gonna give you a moment, give you another moment. Shout out to Dashboy 007, Door of L, Michael Wiley, Shalom. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. All right. So y'all can go ahead and share this link. Let's get some more people in here. Really wanted to just touch base with y'all before Black History Month ends. And I don't know if those of y'all have seen that quote of mine that I posted on social media about Black history, which is really interesting because that really drives the conversation about what the agenda is in regards to Black History Month. You know, it's something that we've accepted, but it's really interesting because, you know, I don't hear nothing about White History Month. Don't hear nothing about Yellow History Month, Red History Month, Brown History Month. I don't hear nothing about any of these things. But yet we hear something called Black History Month. Very interesting. What we ought to do is not talk about the Black history, right, that we've accepted, where we're unable to trace our ancestral ties to our peoples that's on a continental mass of Africa. Right. Remember, Israel is part of Northeast Africa. And anybody wants to debate it, hit me up, holler at me. We can get into that. You know, it's nothing. But when you start to get back to the ancestral ties to the tribes that are there, to the clans that are there, right, to the ethnic groups that are there, and then from there, where their earliest origins are at as well, now you can really get into more substance, right? More of the meat about who you are, where you come from. When we got here, it was a totally different ball game, right? So that 400 years, a little bit more than 400 years, maybe about 550 years, right? Since the 1500s, late 1400s, 1500s, slavery been going on here in Americas. So it's been a while. It's been about 500 years, you know what I'm saying, of us being here, whether it's in South America, because, you know, when we're looking at Africans in the diaspora, the largest group is in Brazil, right? It's not even here in Americas, it's in Brazil. And then we got, you know, some got dropped off in the islands, Central America, and then lastly, North America. You know what I'm saying? But when we look at everybody that got taken and dropped off here, before they got dropped off here, they were a part of various tribes in West Africa. Okay. And these tribes have a history, and they had a history before we got brought over here. So it's like our history is like Black American history. That's pretty much what we learned, Black American history, when it comes to Black History Month. And we just learned about the things and the accomplishments and the events and circumstances that occurred while we were here, when we got, you know, stolen and brought over here to the Americas. You understand what I'm saying? You know, human trafficking. That's pretty much what it is. Kidnapping, human trafficking, and now we're behind enemy lines. You understand what I'm saying? So, so when they say Black History Month, is really just a smoke screen to cover your ancestral ties that you had before you got brought over here to Americas. The objective is to erase any of that identity that's pre the transatlantic slave trade. And what we have to do is connect the dots and be able to show our community, hey, where do we originate before we got over here? What history did we have before we got over here? And start teaching that to our peoples. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of us may incorporate the Bible or the scriptures as being one part of it, but that's not holistic, right? So a lot more took place that is not mentioned in the scriptures, whether it's in the land of Israel, whether that's in East Africa, West Africa, etc. So we have to make these connections, and then we have to be able to convey this over to our community so they have more of that meat and substance about who they are and what their purpose is. All right. So our purpose is not just to survive, thrive, and try to make it up on the East side, you know what I'm saying, here in the Americas. You know what I'm saying? We have an obligation to become autonomous again, and that is possible. You know what I mean? So so I just want to say that in regards to Black History Month, that we need to dig further, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to this subject matter. And, you know, it's always a joke that they give Black History Month, you know, Black history, they set aside a month with the shortest amount of days, 28 days in February. That's crazy. But you get to learn everybody else's history all throughout the year. But when it comes to you, Black man, Black woman, Black child, you're limited to 28 days. That's it. And like I said, they don't really bring it back to the ancestral ties aspect. You know, so there's a Netflix special that's on now by Kevin Hart, and it goes into Black history. It's actually pretty good. I ain't gonna lie, it's pretty good. It has a comedic flavor to it, so it's pretty good. And you know, he's talking to his daughter, and he's going over with her some accomplishment of some Black people here in the Americas. But it never goes before that. It never goes before we got here. It always stops here, and that's unfortunate. You know what I'm saying? That is our diasporan history. That is not our indigenous history, right? So we have to, like I said, connect the links back and be able to teach this not only to our children, but to those who are misinformed also in our community. All right. So peace to B Banks in the building. Let me see who else is in here. Shalom to Vanessa in the building. Tamika Yevra in the building. So beautiful. Peace. How you doing? Thank you for joining in. All right. All right. So shout out to Germ 330 there as well. I see you. I think that's everybody. Jess Sharon, peace was good. Yeah, slave history. That's pretty much what it is. Facts. All right. So again, thank you for tuning in. So let me go over a couple of things real quick, because I want to get some of this stuff out the way, and then I want to prep y'all for the real in-depth discussion that's going to go down either Friday or Saturday, whenever I get the opportunity to go live for y'all. You know what I mean? But let me just keep y'all updated. All right. So first thing is, let me show y'all what I want. Let me show y'all this. This is what I have posted in regards to Black history, because, you know, my objective is really to get our community to think, you know what I'm saying, to think, to reason, and use the mental faculty the Most High has provided for us in order for us to discern things. You understand what I'm saying? I don't believe in blind faith. That's just not me. Some of y'all may. Hey, I mean, that's up to y'all. You know, I already also put on Facebook, those of you who are not on Facebook, another doctrine that I'm going to get into is that of original sin. We're going to address that heavily, because that element needs to be, that presupposition and eisegesis needs to be ripped out of our mindset before we can even enter into the text. That doctrine is not in the text. The text does not teach original sin. It doesn't teach that, right? That is, you know, St. Augustine codified, compilated, and I would say theological premise that he had formulated that then was adopted by the Roman Catholic Church. You know what I'm saying? But the vestiges of that still lies dormant in Christianity today, and as well as Hebrew Israelites who identify with that notion of original sin. So we got to address that, because again, that is not in the text, and that is something that is not cultural, right? Original sin is not cultural. And it'll be very difficult for you to find any indigenous culture that teaches original sin. There was a reason why that doctrine was taught, right? So you have your Romans chapter 12, verses 14 verses 12 to verse 14. And then you have your Psalms 51 and 5. You know what I'm saying? It's the eisegesis, because you have a presupposition. So you eisegete those two verses and try to harmonize them and say, this is the basis for what you call original sin. That's not true. That's not true. That's not cultural. It's not indigenous. It's a fabrication. And the reason why it was created, one of the reasons why it's created, is to justify paedobaptism, or infant baptism, right? The baptism of infants or newborns, etc., right? And why they have to be baptized, right? And then they go into scriptures about baptism and try to link it to those two scriptures there to kind of justify why children need to be baptized. And so not children, babies need to be baptized. You know what I'm saying? So newborns, infants, you know, even toddlers, why they need to be baptized. All right. And this is, again, if this is somebody's rite or ritual, that's different. But for you to say that it has a basis in the scriptures, then that's a different conversation altogether we got to have. So we're definitely going to address original sin. That's coming up soon. I'm thinking whether I should just talk about it and show references, or if I should do a PowerPoint. More than likely, I'll probably do a PowerPoint, and then I'm going to show you guys why this concept is foreign to indigenous cultural practices, right? And pre-Israelite culture is an indigenous cultural system, right? They didn't have no such thing as original sin. It did not exist, right? It was something that would be very foreign to their understanding. All right. So let me go show you guys this quotable here real quick, and then you know, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Let me get into a few things real quick. Let me share this. So this is just so y'all can take a look at it. So as you can see, it's a quotable, something I put together. It says, learning Black history starts with learning why they call your history Black. All right, so you got 27 minutes before Black History Month ends. And what I want you guys to do is really meditate on this. Muse over it, murmur it, muse over it, right? And let it sink in, and share this with everybody that you know. Because why are we the only people whose history is called Black, and really the only people that's assigned a month for history? That's really interesting. It's the disenfranchisement of a people with ancestral heritage that was great, or that had a significant purpose. And by them localizing it just here in America and the diaspora, as a result of the transatlantic slave trade, with some call the Ma'afa, now they've localized it and domesticated it, and now they've handed it back to you and call it Black history, which really us in slavery trying to establish ourselves as a person, a legitimate, recognized person. Even that term "person" has legal implications to it. We're not going to get into that right now. I have a lecture where I touched on that, right? But what I'm saying is, they've disenfranchised us from our true history, and they've done that purposely. And now they're trying to figure out how to handle, maintain us. And what they're doing now is marketing off of us, right? They're making money off of us. We have a $1.2 trillion economic system that we contribute to as African Americans or Black people here in America, right? But guess what? The dollar only circulates 6 hours, and now it's even less. So 4 to 6 hours, the dollar circulates in our community, and it goes outside of our community. That's why when I was growing up, right, and I was in the Bronx growing up, and we would go to the corner stores, and we would go to other stores, and we would see like Arabs, you know, set up shop in the community. We would see Jews set up shop in the community, right? We would see East Indians set up shop in the community, whether it's the gas station, whether it's the bodegas or the corner stores or whatever the case may be. You know, we had people that would come set up shop in our community, and I would say, yo, if we're so poor, right, why all of these other ethnic groups are setting up shop in our community? And then as I got older, I realized that we are the most potent consumer of goods here in America. And for people who are at the bottom of the societal strata to be able to spend $1.2 trillion goes to show that we have nothing to show for it, because we're not organized. We're not autonomous. This is why every other ethnic group is beating us. This is why when people go back and look at Devarim chapter 28, you said that all the nations around you're going to be rising higher and higher. You're going to be lower and lower. And if we see that and we take that and look at our plight, we can see, hey, man, this is really eerily similar to the situation that we are experiencing right now. Whether you want to identify with that or not, I'm just saying, even looking at it from a keen observation, you can tell that there's some kind of connection there, and or it rings true because that's what's happening to us today. So our history can really only be defined when we step our foot into the future by acknowledging where we're at presently and know where we need to go going forward, right? So teach this to your kids. When they go to school for Black History Month, even though it's going to end tonight, but next year or whenever, have them give this quote to their teachers and say, hey, how come we're the only people whose history is called Black? How come we're the only people who was assigned 28 days? Is it to, you know, to stroke our egos, right? Is it to hush and quiet us, or be able to say, hey, look, we're going to throw you a bone? That's pretty much what it is. All right. So your history is rich. It's not contained in 28 days. And those 28 days is not contained or domesticated here in America. It goes much further back than that. And that's the thing that we need to teach our children, so they know where they need to go to going forward. Because today, social studies, when kids grow up and they learn about every other ethnic group and they're Black and they come to them, when I say Black, quote unquote, or African American or Negro, whatever the case may be, they go and look in the books and say, where's my history? Oh man, we started off as slaves here in America. And now they're trying to change that and say we were immigrants coming over here looking for work. It's crazy. It's crazy. That's what happens when you have the liberty to control the narrative. So we got to own it again. This is why autonomy is important. All right. So I definitely want to share that nugget with y'all, because I know that will help somebody. You know what I mean? That will definitely help somebody. All right. Shalom to Black Ave in the building. Shout out to Ahabala, M-O-H-A. Rocky Lizardi Brown, shalom. Andrea White, shalom. That's Sister Yantis. Lorraine I am, shalom. Let me see. I think I got all of y'all. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and move forward. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move forward. All right, so transitioning from that, let's go into two other things real quick. Those of y'all, you know, if y'all on social media, y'all know about the Joy Morgan situation. That was a 21-year-old sister who was in London. She was at an IUIC event on December 26th, I believe I'm not mistaken, and she was not seen since that event. And I'm just going to give y'all the skinny on it, or the surface level of it, and I'll probably go in depth another time. But a member of IUIC was arrested in connection with her murder and disappearance. At this point, I am unsure about the whereabouts of her body. Here's an article I'm posting here for y'all. This is BBC. You know, BBC is originally located in UK. I'm gonna post this in a link for those of you who are not familiar with it, so y'all can see it. And the family has also they put up a GoFundMe, right, so that they can assist with burial costs. So I'm gonna go ahead and share that as well, because you know I can't do another live unless you know I speak on this. You know what I'm saying? This is a really serious matter. You know what I'm saying? And you know, it's not something that we should ignore. We should take lightly. Unfortunately, people will use this incident and try to impose it onto all of us as an Israelite community, which would be very unfortunate, because technically in America, there's, you know, Christians kill more Christians than any other religious group here in America. Christians kill more Christians than any other religious group here in America. Most of the people that die, most people that do the shooting, they profess to be Christians. So you have more Christians killing Christians here in America. So you'll see it. You see, you know, little isolated events like this, which should not be taken lightly, which we should investigate, because if somebody's getting beat or somebody's losing their life, that needs to be addressed. That cannot be swept under the rug. That's something that we need to speak out about. We need to look into. We need to come together and figure out how we can minimize or reduce these incidents from happening, because they'll take small isolated events like that, and then they'll lump all of us in there. And then what they'll attempt to do, all right, is they'll attempt to, again, press upon us the COINTELPRO agenda, where they'll say that we cannot allow these people to rise up because now they are a nationalistic group, and because they're rising up, they become a threat. And now when you become a threat, now they're going to start putting different labels on you. And when they do that, now they have justification to violate your quote unquote constitutional rights. Okay. So this is how deep it is. And again, there's sifting going on in these end times, and persecution is going to go on in these end times for people that stand for something. All right. So as a community, if we show that we are cohesive and coming together to speak about this, to address this, and do our best to prevent it from happening again, then no matter what they say about us, what we can do is show them the efforts that we are putting forth in order to police things within our own community. All right. So, you know, definitely I want you guys to read that article. I know you guys can also familiarize yourself with this incident. If you guys are on social media, I'm sure most of y'all in here are aware of that. Like I said, I put the link in it. Click on the link, and the link will give you some information, because now the secular realm is investigating this, is looking into this. So this is not something that's just localized domestically within our community. Now the secular realm, you know, we're talking about BBC News and other news channels have spoken on this. You understand what I'm saying? So please send your support over to our family. We're going to get into more in-depth discussions on how to prevent incidences like this from happening again. You know, we have to, find ways to prevent, violence and murder in our community. You know what I'm saying? And when I say our community, I'm not just limiting to those who are also woke. I'm saying even those that's in our, close proximity communities that we live in today, wherever you live in right now. You know what I'm saying? Your people are killing each other every day. So it's not just the Israelite community. There's people who are conscious killing people, and there's people who are unconscious killing people. That's just something that is happening here to us. I mean, that happens all around the world, but I'm saying the concentration of it happening to us in such a high frequency is saddening and is sickening. All right, so I'll get into that hopefully in my next live. I just wanted to touch on that because I have to speak on that. I cannot avoid that. You know what I'm saying? That's a 900-pound gorilla in the room, and it needs to be addressed. You feel what I'm saying? So my deepest sympathies go out to the family. My condolences, my support. All right. If any of them are watching this and they need some assistance from me or KHM, email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. We'll do what we can to assist you. But please, those of you who are in the chat, those of you who are watching this, all right, we have to take accountability for these things that happen as a community. And I'm not just saying, just isolated to Joy Morgan. I'm saying that any young Black girl or Black boy that gets killed in our community, we need to take ownership and try to figure out how can we minimize the violence, because this is completely out of hand and it is completely unacceptable. So do not isolate it to just the Israelite community and just ignore the fact that people are getting killed in your community, murdered in your community, beat, abused in your community, assaulted in your community, robbed in your community. These things are happening. That's why we are talking about a moral code in order to stabilize all of this chaos that's happening in our community. And we're going to keep speaking on that, because these cultural values will be able to uplift our people to a certain degree in which they will see value in each other. And therefore, they'll see that if I kill this person, that's a human resource that we don't have anymore in order for us to get to the finish line. Let's keep that in mind. All right. So just wanted to share that with y'all. Like I said, again, we're going to address this going forward, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So shout out to C West 329 in the building, Roderick Crawford in the building. Thank you for joining in. 7 is set apart. Shalom to you as well. Shout out to my brother Brian G in the building. And I think I got all of y'all. All right. All right. So we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. All right. So with that, I want y'all to please excuse my demeanor, my disposition. I just recently, and we say recently, I'm talking about as of yesterday, I have lost an aunt to cancer. Okay. She passed away. And I was, it's really crazy because, you know, we knew her condition. I'm going to go into this a little bit, and then I'm going to transition to what I want to prep y'all for the upcoming discussion, right? And this is important. It's extremely important. All right. I know a lot of people that have lost a loved one from cancer, right? Off the top of my head, if I could think about it, I think I can recall maybe about 15, 16 people in my life that have lost one, and some of them two family members to cancer. Okay. Um, this is really crazy. And then I know people that know other people that have lost people from cancer. And then I've assisted people who've had family members that were suffering from cancer, and now they no longer have cancer, right? So it's really, really it's really deep, you know. And when I say it's really deep, it's because I've never personally experienced a family member dying from cancer, right? That I was close to. Let me say that, because I have family members who did die from cancer. I just wasn't that close to them, right? So, you know, I saw her. Let me see, what day was it? The last time I saw her, when she was conscious, she was in her right mind. I believe that was on the 16th, if I'm not mistaken. So I seen her on the 16th. And you know, not the 16th, the 17th. 17th.
It was a Sunday?
Sunday. So it was the 17th then. It was the 17th. So I seen her on the 17th. She was alive on the 17th. I went to go see her, spent time with her. You know, us and her family. We knew she was sick. Her condition was getting progressively worse. And all of this because of a misdiagnosis that happened back in 2017. My aunt had stage 4 cancer for over a year and didn't even know it. Stage 4 cancer. She had a tumor the size of a grapefruit that was in her chest. It ate out a portion of her spine and a portion of her right lung, right? So it was when they did catch it, it was already metastatic. All right. And at that point, it was already spreading throughout the body, just slowly spreading throughout the body. So she was complaining of chest pains, back pains back in 2017. She went to a general physician and they saw her. Again, they didn't run all the tests that they could have ran. It's interesting because my mother takes my grandmother to the hospital, to her general physician. Whenever they complain, she complains about anything, they run a full garment of tests on her, right? And all of this is connected. So just follow me. All of this is connected, what I'm about to go into, right? So in 2017, she went to the physician to complain about back pains. You know, physician just said, okay, it could be this, could be that, could be this. They didn't really even examine her or anything like that in depth. And eventually, you know, she just dealt with it, but it got to a point where it was unbearable. So she went to the physician again. They sent her to a specialist, an orthopedic. The orthopedic gave her physical therapy, then injected, gave her an injection in her back. And she was able to go on a cruise and enjoyed her cruise. But when she came back from the cruise, the pain came back. After she was completing up her sessions with the chiropractor, eventually got to a point where the pain was just so bad, they realized that something was wrong. Okay. And they told her, hey, we're going to set you up to go get an MRI. Okay. She had went home. I think it was that day she went home from the chiropractor. And maybe the next day or day after that, she was complaining of intense pain. She could not even get up out the bed. So what happened was, you know, her husband was at work. His brother was at the house along with my cousin who was watching her. They called him. He got to the house. They called 911 and they took her to the hospital. When they took her to the hospital, they had her in the hospital for maybe about, I mean, they did some initial screenings or whatever, but when they actually did run the test on her, they found out that she had this much of her spine left, that much. And they said if she would have turned the wrong way, if she would have fell or anything like that, she would have been paralyzed. That's how small, I mean, her spine was, that the actual tumor was eaten into. Okay. And then when they did the MRI, that's when they found out she had cancer. Now, this is months later. This is months later. From 2017, when they found out she had cancer, was in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. And she got surgery in May, and they cut the tumor out, right? And not only did they cut the tumor out, they also put rods and screws in her back because her spine was gone, right? A huge portion of her spine was gone. And from that point on, she was never the same. After that, they set up for chemotherapy, radiation, which put a number on her body. And chemo, now mind you, I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm not a physician. I'm just somebody who's a naturopathic health consultant, right? But chemo is like the worst thing that you can do if you're trying to fight cancer. Chemo is the worst thing you can do. And if you don't know what chemo does, I suggest you research it. If you want me to teach y'all about it, I could do that. Matter of fact, I think I'm probably going to do one of my health seminars on cancer on this channel, or my health channel. You know what I'm saying? Y'all let me know if you're interested in that, if you are, hit one. And if y'all seen the video that I did, because I do health consultation seminars and all of that. You'll see the one that I did on eczema. Right. So when I do any kind of health related thing, it's that same format, it's that in depth, etc. So I've taken the time to study these things, and I'm gonna kind of wrap it up so you guys can see where I'm going at with this. So once they gave her the radiation, she was never the same. Now, before she got surgery, before she got the radiation, right, when she was still having pains and everything, after I think when they gave her the MRI. I'm sorry, they found out she had the tumor before she got the surgery, right? Obviously. Her birthday was in April, and you know, we went to our birthday function, and the family, they had a ball. You know, I don't really engage in birthdays like that, but I was there for support. And then after everybody had left, I sat down and had a discussion with her, and I told her, I was like, hey, look, you know, I know your situation. This is going on. You know, I love you, auntie, et cetera, et cetera. I said, listen, I have a naturopathic health consultation program. What we do is give you education in the form of a seminar or consultation and educate you on, you know, what cancer is, you know, how'd you get that type of cancer and what could be done so that way you can be in a recuperative state and you can get back to good health, right? And I said, what I'll do is I'll front the cost. You don't have to pay for the consultation, and you don't have to pay for the 90-day, you know, health session that we get. So for 90 days, what we do every 30 days, you know, we do a check-in at the end of the month. We do a weekly check-in and then a check-in at the end of the month. And after 90 days of us giving you the regimen and giving you education, your health should improve. And I would say about 80% of the people who we work with in regards to these services, they have improvement. You know what I'm saying? And remember, I said about the cancer situation, but again, I'm not saying I cured cancer. That's not what I'm telling you, right? Because the FDA will come after you if you make a claim like that. All I'm saying is we educated people and we suggested a regimen of supplements for them to take, as well as diet changes, etc. And with that, these people recovered from cancer, all right, without getting chemo. They recovered from cancer. So it's possible that can happen. Chemo does not get rid of cancer. Surgery does not get rid of cancer. These things don't get rid of cancer. So if you think that surgery and chemo gets rid of cancer, it doesn't. And I'm not saying anything that's unorthodox. Doctors will tell you this too. It doesn't get rid of cancer. You got to understand how cancer forms. Oncologists are the ones that, you know, specialists that people go see when they have cancer. You got to learn about oncogenes. You got to learn about mitochondrial hypoxia. All right. You got to learn about how the nucleus of a cell can get affected. Sometimes viruses can also contribute to precancerous cells. It's a whole host of various different things. But if y'all interested in that type of information, hit one, and I'll do the seminar on this channel. It's normally a 6-hour seminar, right? 6 hours, 2 hours break, 2 hours break, 2 hours break. But I'm gonna try to condense it in 3 hours, like I did with the eczema one, and try to give y'all as much information as possible. You can take your time and go through it because you have enough information, enough education in that seminar that you can take care of it on your own if you so choose to. But remember, the liability is on you. And I give a disclaimer saying I'm not a physician, and all I'm doing is giving you education and information. And if any kind of serious issue is at hand, always go see your physician. That's the disclaimer that I have to, by law, put out there. All right. But you have enough information in that seminar that you can take matters in your own hands, and then you can do your own revitalization of your health. So in the case of my aunt, I sat down, had a discussion with her in May of 2018. And I told her and the family, listen, this is what I want to do. I drafted up an official letter from Naturopath to Eden. Again, Naturopath to Eden. This is a program that comes from our cultural paradigm. There's no need for me to engage in culture if I cannot produce services and goods that's going to benefit the community. What good is that? The end game is getting our people, moving our people towards autonomy. The end game for natural path to Eden is to establish an independent HMO, an unorthodox independent HMO that allows people to pay into insurance so that way it can cover alternative medicine, and also people that want to go see nutritionists, people that want to go see midwives. A lot of these things are not covered by insurance. So a natural path to Eden is going to be in the future, because we have the bill drafted up. We're trying to wait for a couple other things to occur first before we try to give the bill to some congressmen and congresswomen and get their support behind it. But this bill will allow the independent HMO to be created and supported. And by doing so, it'll be an insurance company that we're already in the process of laying down the blueprint. It's going to take some time because I need a lot of legal review for it. But once it's established, the objective of this initiative is to not only allow people to pay into insurance that's going to take care of alternative medicine, alternative practices as it pertains to naturopathic and holistic healing for ailments and diseases, but also it gives bonuses to people that's connected to this system for keeping patients out. Their objective is to find patients, bring them in, but when you keep them out, you get a bonus. So we're rewarding people that are part of this network, that is in network. We're rewarding them for keeping patients out, keeping patients healthy. And then what happens is an evaluation is issued for every patient that's intake to see what is the progress of their health. Because if you are not progressing the health of this individual, then why are you in business? So this is something that's revolutionary. This is something that's going to stir the pot up heavy. And I'm not trying to stir the pot up. All I'm saying is this is something that is needed in our community, because there are other countries, notably Canada, that give you free healthcare and also have clinics that do, watch this, give you alternative medicine, or alternative clinics that give you alternative medicine, naturopathic, holistic, whatever, however you want to label it. And they have an 80+% success rate from patients that come in and patients that leave out. And they don't have a hard time from the Canadian government to establish these things. Here in America, it's a totally different game. So when that comes out, I'm going to need your support to help push it forward. But what this is going to do is prevent our loved ones, our friends, people in our community from dying from diseases they don't have to die from. The Most High wants us to live and not die. Live and not die. He wants us to produce and expand in our community. We have to grow. We have to expand. And if we're dying from all these illnesses and diseases prematurely, we're not fulfilling the commandment. So that means we must have a cultural paradigm in place that has a certain guideline in order to direct and instruct us on the best practices to apply in our community, so that way we will expand, we will increase and not decrease, like we read in the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah. This is extremely important. So I presented it to the family, and then from there she got the surgery. From there she got the chemo. They said, "Oh, we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait. We're gonna wait. We're gonna wait." When I went to go see her on the 16th, I spoke to her, spent some time. She was conscious, she was awake. People was praying, you know, because my family's mostly Christians, right? They were praying for her, talking to her, joking with her. She was in good spirits. She was conscious. She was sitting up, albeit in pain, but she was sitting up. She was in good spirits. And then I went there, you know, I spoke with her, whatever the case may be. I wanted to record a video diary, but I didn't think about that until after I left the house. And I thought I had some more time to go back and do it, but I didn't. But while I was there, before we left, I went and gave her a hug, told her I love her. She grabbed me and she said, "Hey, you know, nephew, don't forget to get me those supplements and vitamins that I was supposed to get." So I looked at her and I said, "Are you sure that's what you want me to do?" She was like, "Yes." I said, "Okay, I got you. I'm going to be here next Sunday and I'm going to bring these items for you. I need you to stay strong and hang in there until then." She said, "Okay." And the reason why I bring that up is because there are people that realize that all this praying, that realize that all this religious rhetoric, that realizes that all of this false hope or blind faith is ineffective. They realize that. Common sense sinks in and said, listen, all this stuff is not working. When my aunt was discharged from her last hospital visit, the doctors said, even her physician said, "There's nothing more we can do for you." She was in in-home hospice care. In-home hospice care. She did not want to die in the hospital. She did not want to die at some facility. She said, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out at home. The house that I worked hard, saved up for, and I purchased with my own blood, sweat, and tears. I said, okay, I respect that. So the fact that she said that to me was a reminder to me when people realize that all the stuff around them is nothing but fluff. The doctors, pharmaceutical companies, hospice care, and a lot of the religious rhetoric. And this is not a knock to my family who are Christians, because my family are sincere. They believe in what it is that they teach, that they preach. They believe it, and I love my family. But what I'm saying is a lot of that stuff is ineffective and it's inconsistent. And because it's ineffective, it is inconsistent. You have people who rely on that day by day. And it gets to a point where their life is on the line. And because their life is on the line, they hope in something that they're being told. All the way to the point where they realize that that is ineffective. So then they realize some people who have said certain things to them and say, this person can probably help me because I tried everything. I was a little bit upset because I wanted my family to implement this regimen and get this education a year ago. It didn't happen that way, unfortunately. They didn't prioritize it. And of course, you're not going to have a oncologist or your general physician is going to tell you, yeah, why don't you go the alternative route? They don't get paid that way. They get paid by referrals. That's how they get paid. They get commissions when they write your prescription. So that's how their mind frame is. So I say this to say, I realize that if I'm going to restore and reinstitute our ancestral culture, there has to be things I got to pull out of it that I can create into services that I can give back to the community, so that way we can fulfill cultural mandates, fulfill them, live and not die. That's what Yah wants from us. So prayer is just an appeal. That's all it is. It's the same thing when you go to the courthouse. You're making an appeal to something. And you have to do certain things in accordance and concurrent with that appeal. Because if you don't, that appeal that you just made may or may not get heard. But there's a formula. If you implement it, it's consistent, that you can get results. But it's going to require patience, right? You're going to have patience. You have to have self-discipline. You have to be able to stay focused, and you cannot lose hope. Yes, we're going to get times where we're going to feel like, oh, A, B, and C, and woe is me. Those things are going to happen. We are going to make mistakes. But at the end of the day, the system that is in place should be consistent enough that we get results. The Most High has always given consistent results. That is what our ancestors has hinged their concrete faith on. We must do the same thing today. So when I was told yesterday that my aunt's condition had progressively gotten worse and that she was not going to make it throughout the night, we were about to commute to go and see her. She was still alive when I got that call. So I was trying to get the family together, trying to eat. And even before I got to get halfway through my meal, I got the call saying that she passed. I was devastated. So me and my family, we went there as fast as we could. We got there and we saw her. She was still in the bed. Got, spent some time or whatever. It really hurt me. It really, really hurt me to see her like that. And if anybody knows my aunt, she was always the life of the party. She's had a rough life, but she did not allow that rough life to make her bitter. And that's the one thing I love about her. Another thing I love about her, she was very open-minded and she kept her ear open. So some things I would drop some stuff on her and she would take it in and be like, yeah, that's, so she would hear, right? She would hear. And interestingly enough, she had a tallit on her when she was in the bed. That was really interesting. That was interesting. But anyway, so the point I'm trying to make is when I saw that she was there and I was like devastated by that, I was like, wow, this is really crazy. This is really crazy. Really crazy. And it was such an issue that it was a hardship in order to get the funding necessary to bury her. And that's another issue we have in our community, right? So we all had to pitch in and get everything together. They made arrangements today on when the funeral was going to be and everything like that. But the point I'm trying to make through all of this is to say this: I hate cancer, and you don't have to die from cancer. You don't have to die from cancer. And if you have loved ones that do have cancer, we would like to help. We're not promising a cure. We're not saying we're oncologists or we're, physicians or nothing like that. We're not saying that. What we want to do is educate you on what it is and be able to give you a customized regimen to apply over the course of 90 days to improve your condition. That is the best that we can do and that we want to do for you, if you so choose. Yes, you will have to, sign a liability form and assume liability through the process of education. That's part of the program, right? Because you understand what the program consists of and you assume all liability. But at the end of the day, when a doctor say that there's nothing more they can do for you, we want to step in and help you. This is going to be part of a larger project called the Lazarus Project. And the Lazarus Project was something that was formulated back in 2015 with me and a few other people. I brought the idea up, they agreed to it. And pretty much what the Lazarus Project is that we go to hospices all across the country and go to people who are terminally ill that do still have some substantial amount of time to live. They just have a terminal illness. The doctors have said there's nothing more we can do for them. And then we go in there and we resurrect them. So the resurrection is not just in supplementation, dieting, etc., but it's also speaking to them, encouraging them, edifying them to bring their hopes up. Every time somebody donates to KHM, some funds are allotted to help people, like my aunt in that situation, my aunt, where the bill was footed by me, right? I pulled it from KHM funds, and because I keep some money aside for that, right? Whenever people donate, I put a portion aside for that, and was able to purchase several products for her to address each issue. She had kidney failure. She had to be hooked up to a catheter in order for her to urinate. You understand what I'm saying? It got that bad. So what we did was, what I did was, as the lead consultant, I put together a customized regimen to address everything, to address the mitochondria dysfunction in these cancer cells in order to maintain the blood glucose, because the receptors on the cancer cell is extremely heightened and enhanced to pull in more blood sugar. That is how it continues to operate and expand. The mitochondria is damaged and dysfunctional, and that is the organelle in the cell responsible for apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. That means that when the mitochondria senses that something's wrong with the cell, it sends out a signal. The cell kills itself. It breaks up to smaller parts. It sends signals out to neutrophils or macrophages, and they come in and they clean up the mess. So we wanted to address that by using PQQ and other items in order to restore the mitochondrial function. So that way, when the mitochondrial function is restored, it'll realize that the cell is damaged and it will program itself to die. Then we have to boost the immune system. So you have to address these things, because if your cells are not healthy, you're going to continue to have this issue with cancer. It doesn't matter how much chemo they give you, how much tumors they cut out of you. We must also boost your immune system. That is extremely important. You also have to boost your NK cell activity. The NK cell, the natural killer cell, is the cell responsible for seeking out tumors and cells that are all jacked up and killing them. Also, you have cytotoxic T cells that also do the same thing. So each one of these items, we have supplements that addresses each one of these situations to restore your body to a point where it can fight back. Because if you have to fight on your body's behalf, you'll never be healthy. You have to train, condition, and supply your body so it can fight for itself. If it cannot fight for itself, you've already lost the war. Doesn't matter how many battles you seem to win, you're going to lose the war. So hopefully, this is the message to y'all. Going forward, we're going to put some emphasis in regards to natural path to Eden and assisting people. If you or anybody you know has cancer, I'm working with 3 people now who have cancer, that have cancer, and the doctor said there's nothing more they can do for them, or they don't want to get chemotherapy. They're seeking alternative, methods, or whatever the case may be. We have suggestions. And also, there's a clinic in Toronto. Remember I told you about Canada. Clinic in Toronto that also gives you what's called DCA, dichloroacetate. I'm going to go over that when I do the seminar for you for free. I'm going to break all of this down for you for free. And they don't just give you the DCA, they give you other items as well. And it's an entire environment, not like the cancer centers out here in America. They're focused on you leaving out of there healthy, without chemotherapy, without radiation, without surgery, without any of this, invasive procedures. Their job is to try alternate methods to get you whole. And their success rate is incredible. So I'll go ahead and put that as a link, as a resource when I do the session. But also, if you want a customized regimen after you get educated, we can also follow up and help you out with that. And the total cost for all of this, for us to assist you, right? Mind you, the stuff that we put it in is under $400 to assist you to go through the entire process, to customize the regimen, to check in on you, to educate you. Less than $500. And a person, especially in her case, was paying a lot of pocket for all these doctor visits, specialist visits. She's paid way over that. She's paid, I think, maybe about $1,000 and didn't get no results because she's not even here with us anymore. So I just wanted to get that out because I didn't want that to be on my shoulder and on my mind as I transition and go into teaching and giving information out to y'all. All right, so y'all keep me in your prayers and your support. I appreciate it. If you want to donate, you can do it through, the donation methods will be in the description, and you can also do a super chat donation if you want. Like I said, a lot of these funds are put aside for, research and development, for other needs for KHM. Some of it gets taken out so that way I can use it for other items as well. I can put it towards things that we're doing in the community. For example, I've donated or given to the Greenhaven Initiative Project, and that's coming from the donation from KHM that's given towards that, and we're supporting other initiatives as well. So your donations, no matter how small, goes a long way. When you share videos and stuff, that goes a long way, right? On Facebook, we set up surveys, one for Greenhaven, well, 3 of them. One from the Greenhaven Initiative, which is the Black Cityhood Establishment. The other one is for the virtual charter school, right? That is centered around cultural practice and ideas, that's faith-based, right? And then the third one is a Black credit union. All right, we put the survey monkey surveys on my Facebook page so people can take the surveys and support all of these autonomous services for our community. And then out of KHM from Divine Prospect, I created Jubilee Manumission to eliminate third-party non-federal debt and Natural Path to Eden in order to alleviate people of these ills and diseases that they face each and every day. This all came out of my cultural paradigm. Not, we're going to sit back and pray the dead away. We're going to pray the illness away. No, we're going to pull from out our cultural paradigm, and we're going to create something of substance that can yield results. I just wanted to get away from that. Just want to get that off my chest, get that out to y'all. Thank y'all for your support, for your prayers in advance. I appreciate that. Right? It was really hard on me yesterday. It's still hard on me, but I've done my best to be strong and maintain it because I have other responsibilities and obligations as well. And I want to make sure my family stays strong. But I'm telling you, I was not that strong yesterday. I was extremely just at a low point because I truly love my aunt. When I moved out here, one of the few people to really cater to what I needed to get set up. Helped me out a lot when I came out here. You know what I'm saying? So I really love my aunt. I appreciate her. But she's not gone because her memories will live with us and her legacy. She told me the things that she wanted. The main thing she said to me, she said, nephew, I know everybody's here. They may be feeling sad for me and everything. I don't want to be remembered that way. What I want y'all to do is I want y'all to come together at least once a month, and I want y'all to celebrate life. That's what she told me. And I was like, you know what? I got you, no doubt. I'm going to hold you down. So I'm going to obligate the rest of my family to come together so we can celebrate life. I love my aunt, man. And like I said, I'm not going to let her memory go. And I'm going to even go harder in beating up cancer. Even harder in the pain, beating up cancer. All right. So let me transition away from that. Let me move forward. All right. So thank y'all again. You know, I see a lot of ones. So I guess y'all actually want to see the seminar. So I'll do the seminar on here. Like I said, it's normally a 6-hour seminar. I'm gonna truncate it or shorten it to about 3 hours and pack with as much information as possible. You can take your time and go through it, but you'll have enough information in there to know what cancer is, how you got cancer, and what you can do if you don't want to go the Orthodox route, or even in conjunction with. We never tell people who's going the Orthodox route to stop. We don't tell them that. We say, hey, use this in concordance with that. This is our suggestion. Use it with that, and it will enhance the things that they're doing. So that way, when it is undetectable, you can wean away from that prescription medication, potential surgeries, whatever, and just stay on this naturopathic diet and supplementation until you continue to increase your health. All right. So with that being said, let's move forward. All right. Shout out to Leitner 12, Kamathi, Melaku El, Ben Israel, Brother Kwaku, Danielle in the building, The Script. Shout out to The Script. Shout out to Cheryl, Danelle Jones, Damian Bland, So Beautiful. I think that's everybody. If you want to shout out, hit one. But I got y'all in regards to shout out to the Black app in regards to that seminar, right? Those of you who have not seen the seminar in regards to me talking about eczema, I'll go ahead and post the link for you guys so you can go check it out. You can see how thorough that presentation was. And again, I had to cut a lot of corners because it was 6 hours worth of information that I had to chop up into half that time. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna let me go ahead and get that and post it in here for y'all. Where is it at? Oh, here it is. All right, I got it. I'll post it for y'all. All right, here it is right here. You can see this one on eczema. Anybody has eczema out there, highlight us. We'll help you out with that too. I had it myself. I don't have it anymore. So, but anyway, all right. So let me transition to the last point I want to make to prep you up for next week, and then I got to go to bed. Right, I got to rush and go to bed. But let's get into this, right? So, I'm gonna talk about my last lecture that y'all probably see on this channel, and it's called "How Do We Walk It Out?" Right? And pretty much what I was discussing in there was a cultural change via paradigm shift. Okay, that the information that I was about to prep y'all with is the purpose of it is to present a new paradigm to initiate change within our cultural awareness, so our current cultural disposition. All right. I appreciate that, Daryl Yahoo Ben Dora. Shout out to Don Terry as well. I got you, Don Terry. I mean, if y'all are interested in private consultations, because I do assessment. Assessment is free. The consultation is $100. But in the consultation, we give you all the information you pretty much need to deal with cancer. And then the rest of the money goes to if you want us to customize a regimen for you, and then we give you weekly and monthly check-ins for 90 days until you recover, right? But if you're interested in that service, you can definitely email us. I'll put the email right here. That's it right there, naturopathtoeden@gmail.com. So you guys can email us there. Any inquiries in regards to health, and we'll let you know if we can help you. We'll make an assessment, and from there we'll do set up a paid consultation. But if we get enough donations, then we'll give the first couple of consultations out for free, right? So every time people donate, they help other people, right? Yes, Kwaku, we assist with that as well. So you or her, email us at naturopathtoeden@gmail.com, and we can assist. All right. So we help out with that too. Depending upon what kind it is, I'll give you some freebies now. I'll give you some freebies. Red marine algae is probably going to be your best buddy. L-lysine, which is an amino acid you need an abundance of, and red marine algae. Get those 2 items, and they will help you with that condition, Kwaku. All right. 2 freebies: red marine algae and L-lysine. Okay. All right. So so transition. So with that lecture that I did, the lecture that I did on how to walk it out, the objective of that was, what is the best method for us to
that one.
You see, my echo dot is bugging out. What is the best method for us to actually apply what we call Torah? Okay, the statute, laws, and commandments, the cultural elements. How do we best apply these things? Right, that's the objective of it, and that application element has been called or termed, or the phrase has been coined as halakha. Right, the ideal walking out or application of what it is that we read in the written Torah that we need as a community. And the reason why this element is important is because there are a lot of things that are implicit that's in the text, and there are some things that are not explicit. Some things are, some things just aren't. So the things that are not explicit and the things that are implicit, how do we rightly apply that so we can yield results? So over the course of time, this oral tradition grew up alongside of the written Torah, and it developed over the course of time. Now, you'll hear some rabbis or people, Jews, say that, oh, these oral traditions go back to Moshe. Academia does not agree with that. Academia says that these oral traditions have developed during the Ezra-Nehemiah period in Persian captivity, which that's where all the evidence points at, right? There's nothing that goes back further than that, right? And we have evidence of that simply by looking at the pre-exilic elements of the text, as well as archaeology, right? And other cultural comparisons that we can make with other sister cultures, right? So we can pretty much gauge what was actually done then and what wasn't. Also, what is also, you said the link is not working for the eczema. I clicked on it right now and it's showing up. So I'm not sure. Click on the link again. It should be working. The link should work. So click on the link again. Let me know if it's working. It should work. Noria Yisrael. It should work. Yeah, I'll put it here. All right. So, let me finish what I'm saying. All right. So, so it's how do we best walk this thing out? And because there's a lot of reasons why what I call Second Temple Judaism, or the oral traditions that was then codified during the Tannaim period, the time period, and that was completed in 200 CE. How that came about. So a lot of academia believes that the establishment of that was based on a lot of familial customs that then was codified and then ruled upon by the Sanhedrin Council, the Great Council. And then once they realized that, hey, a lot of turmoil is going on, we got to put this thing in writing. That's exactly what they did in 200 CE before they final dispersal after Hillel II presiding over the Sanhedrin, right? But it came out a lot of familial customs that then was adopted by the Pharisees, and they became the maintainers of this halakha, right? Or what's called Jewish law, right? So in that lecture, what I was saying was that those of us who our ancestors was taken in the transatlantic slave trade, when you go back to those tribes that our ancestors came from, and they give you their oral tradition as it pertains to their self-identification as Israelites, most of them will tell you that they're from the northern tribes. And you may have some that may claim to be from Judah, but according to most of the research, those small pockets that did claim from Judah were mostly pre-exile Judites. Pre-exile Judites. Okay, when I say pre-exile, I'm talking about the first exile. It's even touted that these are Judites that escaped out of Israel, who left out of Israel, along with some northern tribes, and entered into Africa, so that way they wouldn't be involved in a split between the northern and southern kingdoms. Nevertheless, they didn't have a Talmud. They didn't have a Talmud in their possession. So it's interesting that they didn't have a Talmud in their possession. Most of them claim to be from northern tribes, and the pockets that are Judites were there before the exile. So what does this mean? That means if people are saying that these oral traditions actually go back to Moshe, we'll say, okay, if some of them do, which ones? And if some of them don't, which ones? So if we're going to look for a time capsule that is going to contain these elements, it's going to be back to these tribes that our ancestors came from off the coast of West Africa, and actually examining their indigenous culture to see the vestiges of Israelite customs in that culture. They've preserved it. It's there. Go back and investigate it. So what I was telling people was, when the Talmud was put together, which consisted of the Mishnah and the Gemara, and then you have later commentaries that arose later. You have the Jerusalem Talmud, you have the Babylonian Talmud. A lot of people quote from it and they misinterpret it because they don't read the entire context of the passage, because it's a huge, voluminous work, right, that will take a long time to go through. So I recommend people to go to Rambam's Mishneh Torah, which is probably going to be your best source next to the Shulchan Aruch by Yosef Karo. Okay, these are two great sources if you just want to get the abridged version of the Talmud to the things that are rightly applicable, right? They simplify it so that the layman can access it. The Talmud was not written for the layman, right? But when Rambam and Yosef Karo created their works, it was for it to be easily accessible by the layman Jew, right? But the system that was developed from Second Temple Judaism all the way into I would say maybe the Age of Reason, right? You have Talmudists, right? And people that created commentary on top of the Talmud and created their form of Orthodox Judaism. They created a system that works for them. Most of the Talmud was codified and put together in Babylon. That's interesting. The one that was created in Charetz Israel, the land of Israel, that a lot of that was compiled under the influence of a lot of Hellenism. And there was a huge Jewish community that was in Babylon. The point I'm trying to make was a lot of this developed based on needs of the community, right? Because when we go back and read the Ezra and Nehemiah story, they found a book. How we applied the stuff in this book. So they just read the book, and what they had to do was they had to recreate customs. They had to recreate certain things in order for them to be compliant to the things that's in the book, which means if there was an oral tradition that existed, only vestiges of it lived on, and they had to set up a different system that ran alongside the written Torah on how to apply those things, and who had the authority to say, okay, since this is not here, but we're gonna give it as a law, right? So it can give you offense, so you don't violate Torah, you be in compliance with Torah. They've added these things. It was to better cater to that community that was developing. So we're saying that we came from the northern tribes based on the oral tradition in West Africa. I didn't make this up. Going back to what they're saying, that means they didn't have this developmental system that occurred from Ezra and Nehemiah all the way into the codification of the Talmud, and all the way into the community lasted in Babylon up until maybe about 800 to 1000 CE, when that last stage ended. Then it switched over into Europe and North Africa. Again, areas where these West Africans are at, who claim to be Israelites, who had no contact or understanding of this new type of halakha. So what happened was they created their own halakha, and it was preserved in that indigenous spiritual system. It's there. It can be sought out and found. So what I say is that because we are connected ancestrally more to those individuals in West Africa who have preserved the halakha of the written Torah, I'm saying instead of us going to a different system of halakha, which tells you that you can only be a Jew through matrilineal lineage, and that comes from the Mishnah. That's not in Torah, but they use proof text to kind of validate that. And number two, that it depends on the halakha that you practice. These two things define you as a Jew. And if you bind yourself to this Talmud, then you have to be subject to the rules therein. And therefore, they find a way to use it to disenfranchise you of being those people or anybody related to the people of that book. So we got to understand how this thing is placed so that we can respond. So what I say is we go back to the indigenous peoples who we came from, who were taken off the coast, west coast of Africa, brought on those ships. We go back to those people and those tribes, notably the Igbo peoples is one group of people, but there's other groups of peoples there. And we study their indigenous culture, Odin Ani or Odin Ani and Ome in Allah or Omen Allah or Odin Allah. And we look at these things and we sift through it and we say, okay, let's take the corpus of these elements that pertain to the walking out the written Torah and things that develop as a result of having Torah and strip these things out of the overall spiritual system. And we take these elements and then we infuse it into our walk today. And then we add on to it things that are based on the environment that we're in today. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. This is what I wanted to leapfrog into so you guys can see where we're at, where we're going with this. A lot of people, not a lot of people, some people, a lot of people liked that lecture, but a lot of people did not watch that lecture. And I realized it was because people were either unsure by looking at the thumbnail, looking at the title, didn't know pretty much detail on what it was. Or number two, they started to watch it and it was like, wait, what is this? Some people did not understand because they didn't pick it up. It's an introduction from a think tank of a cultural paradigm shift that now you have to deal with and address. And it was a lot for a lot of people. They didn't know how to deal with it. I said that I'd rather get my halakha from the people who are in the land today, who identify as Israelites, who share the same ancestors as me, and they found a way to develop halakha that works for them in the land, than from another group who created it for a specific audience that benefits them. And the point I make was that how do other Jews, people who claim to be Jews, how come they're more prosperous than we are if we're following the same book? It's because of their halakha and our lack thereof. We must reestablish, reinstitute, and reconstruct it. So what I'm using is a new template. And if you guys want to know which one of these practices to look for in Odinani or in Odin Allah or in Ome Allah, and if you go back to the lecture, I break these terms down so you can see what they are. There are two books that will help you sift through it and do the cultural analysis for you, right? So they do the comparative cultural analysis where you're looking at two cultures, looking at the similarities between these two cultures. And what you're doing is you're looking for the common denominator, extracting that and say, okay, now that we have this and we see it was applied this way and these are the results that it yields, what can we take from that and fuse it into what we're doing today and then add the element of our diaspora here in America for things that pertain to our environment, our circumstance, and be able to add on this so that way we have a degree of breathing room or prosperity until we're redeemed out of this captivity. This is extremely important next level end game type stuff. But a lot of us, we're not even there. And like I said to you all the time, when you watch The Matrix, all we're doing is going to the Matrix, waking people up, and then having them fend for themselves when they need a resource or something like that. In The Matrix, when they woke somebody up, not only did they get them, like if you watch when Neo was woken up, right, when he unplugged himself and then he got unplugged from the system and flushed down as refuge, that's what the system does when you wake up. They treat you like garbage and they talk bad about you and they try to smear your name and all these other things. He was redeemed by Morpheus and his group, and they brought him to Zion, which was an autonomous, self-sustaining community outside of the system that was trying to assimilate them as human batteries to continue to fuel the machine. They had a community that they woke them up to with resources. We don't got that. We out here waking everybody up as Israel, but we have no autonomy. What good is that? And all they're doing is sending agents when we go into the matrix and or sentinels to go spy us out, to sift us out, and do all types of manner of harm to us because we are not cohesively organized, because we don't have an agreed upon system of halakha on how to walk out Torah in this captivity. We don't have it. We're too divided. And we wonder why these other ethnic groups are rising and we're not. We have nothing to pass on to our children because we're not working towards them. We have no end game for the community that we wake up that's being irresponsible. We got to stop that. We got to stop that. Yes, dogma is the number one killer of that. Religious dogma. And not only religious dogma, but also misdirected zealousness. People are zealous, but it's misdirected in the wrong area. And most of the people that wake you up have no blueprint for you on what to build. What are we building? Okay, you waking us up. What are we building? You calling us a nation, but we ain't got no manufacturing plants. How are we a nation? We got no GDP. How are we a nation? We ain't got no institutions, higher learning institutions. How are we a nation? We ain't got no army. How are we a nation? What you mean we're a nation? How is that? How is that? How is that? We're not no nation. We're ethnicity that has been displaced. That's all we are, an ethnicity and at best a community. We're not a nation. But other groups, they get access to these resources and then they allocate them to needs of their community because they're following an agreed upon system on how to walk out Torah. And it works for them. But when it comes to us, we say we follow Torah, but there's barely any collective results. And we probably won't even get it all together until we're redeemed out of here. But in the interim, we can work towards that. Because at the end of the day, you still got to live here until your time is up. You still got to live here. You got family got to live here. You still got to live and operate. So we should be following the instructions that was given to the Israelites when they were in captivity in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, starting at verse 4. A letter was written to them on telling them what to do. We had to follow that same model of autonomy. He doesn't want us to sit idle and pray and wait to get redeemed. We have to put in work to ensure our community is increasing and appealing to the city that we're in so that through our appeal, the city may prosper and we may prosper. This was a directive given to them after Deuteronomy 28 was given from Moshe. So we attributing Deuteronomy 28 to Moshe, and the Israelites got dispersed out of the land and into captivity. We're going to say, oh, the curses followed them. Okay, you said the curses followed them. But when Jeremiah wrote a letter and sent it to them, they was given instructions on what to do while they was in captivity based on the disobedience of their forefathers. They had instructions on what to do. They wasn't supposed to sit by idly and not do anything. Why are we doing the same thing? Okay. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to let y'all go, but let me give y'all a quick snapshot of what I want to go on a little bit further this weekend, all right? So when it comes to understanding the halakha that we are to walk out, how are we going to walk this thing out? And not only walk it out, decide on what elements work and what ones don't, do a pilot in certain communities, see what works, what doesn't, and be able to codify, get together, codify, put it together to something that is standardized and best practices that we need to apply in every community where an Israelite is at or Israelites are at. Shout out to Get Wise. Thank you so much for the donation. I truly appreciate that. Thank you so much. So in that lecture, I gave a reference to 2 books in that lecture. So I really want you to go back and watch that lecture, share that lecture. It's a video right before this one. Watch it in depth, take notes, share it. You got questions, you can ask me when I do my next full live. All right. But in those 2 books, they do a comparative cultural analysis, and it helps us to extract the things that directly compare and creates a model for us to implement as it pertains to halakha. And then once we have that template, we build on top of it for things that apply to us here in our diaspora. So we don't have to abide by the rules and authority of the Talmud, right? And the rabbis that made commentaries on the Talmud, because that developed in a community and society that is not related to ours. Totally different. Now, can some of those things work for our community? Yeah, some of them can. Can all of it? No, definitely not. But those people who do follow it, hey, more power to you. I'm not telling anybody it's evil, it's wicked. I don't really use terms like that when it comes to things of that nature. Some people do, and that's the dogma speaking. I'm saying objectively, looking at it as a formula, it does not even out. It does not work for us. A lot of people get afraid of Africa because everybody's Hamites and they all sold us slavery. But then there's brothers that are there and sisters that are there that claim to be Israelites. All Israelites didn't get sold into slavery, because there's still some there that said they are Israelites and they have a better case than some of us here in the Americas. So if we go back to those people and examine those people and see what their oral tradition is, see what their customs and their practices are, see what parts of Torah that they're actually walking out, and the things that develop alongside Torah that is not explicitly in there, but that works as a way of creating a fence around Torah so they can be in compliancy and they're not violating the land. When you go back and watch that lecture, it is heavy. It's deep. It's deep because it's a game changer. And we go back and look at these things. Now we have a better template for things that worked for our ancestors and how we can improve on it to work for us. I'm not telling y'all to follow everything in it. What I'm saying is, look, do the cultural comparative analysis and use those elements that are the vestiges of the written Torah being walked out in that culture. It's there. It's the work. Most of the work has been done for y'all already by people who are indigenous to that area, who identify as being Igbo. They've done the work for you already. We have to add on to that. We have to build on to that. We have to make it better, because we have the intellectual property. They have the cultural property. And when we work together, we can create something that's unstoppable and become truly autonomous. But most of y'all are afraid of Africa, West Africa, Hamites. It's interesting. I just seen Elder Tahar of GMS come out with a video saying all West Africans are Israelites or Jake. So even some other camps are waking up and realizing that, hey, we may have gotten this wrong by saying that all of them are Hamites and we hate them and they dirty, filthy, stinking Hamites. No. And even, and this is the challenge I put out, if they are Hamites, which, and we go to Bereshit chapter 10, which families are they from? Which tribes of Hamites do they come from? Which ones? Because you have Misraim, you have Cush, you have Put, you have, Canaan. So you're looking at them, and then they have offsprings, and they develop into clans. And so which ones are the ones that's in West Africa? Which ones are the ones that's over there? Because some of the oral traditions are absolute, saying that they were the ones that went over there in West Africa and populated it. I don't agree with that absolute oral tradition, but some of them say that. And if that's the case, then that means that Shem might stay in West Africa. So when you make a blatant assertion like that, somebody has to come up behind you and say, validate that. Now, I hear what you're saying, validate it. Validate it. So we got to be very careful on how we use those things. And even with that being the case, and let's say you do call them Hamites, they are willing to work with us. So we work with them. And in doing so, we get the necessary resources, allocate them so that way they're properly distributed in our community, and that we can get a degree of breathing room until we're redeemed out of this captivity. I'm trying to speak a language that we all can associate with. Shalom to my brother Kenyon Fleming. Thank you so much for the donation. I truly appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. All right. So this is the type of mindset that we got to get in. So let's transition to this, and let me go. If I didn't have no obligation tomorrow, I'll be on here another hour for you. All right. So the template has been laid out, and I'm going to read a little bit from the template, and then I'm going to read for some articles that you guys can go back and get yourselves and actually see what we're talking about. So now in this case, I'm dealing with the dietary law, right? What we see in Vayikra chapter 11, Leviticus chapter 11. And what it is doing a comparative cultural analysis between traditional Igbo foods and Iron Age Israel food. And not even Iron Age, also first, second, third century Palestinian foods as well, which a lot of those also are traditional. Some things were a little bit different because when you had the Romans, or the Greeks and Romans come and take over, they've introduced certain methods of making food, preparing food. Trade has brought different foods in to the community as well. But then there's some also traditional foods that they've had, which we can also see from the scriptures as well. The scriptures actually give us which foods are ancestral, right? So besides the pastoralists who supplied goats and lambs for food for us to eat, and sometimes bulls as well, you also have the agriculturalists who have to yield and bring in things such as wheat and barley. So wheat was wheat, the type of food that came from wheat were really eaten by people who were considered middle class or upper class. Barley foods were really for the lower class, which is really interesting. And if you look to see how the stone grinding was done in order to, create a flour out of those grains, you also had degrees of grit that ended up in the bread that they ate. So imagine you today eating bread with stone pieces in it, rock pieces in it. That's what they had to do when they ate their bread. And the lower the rock or sediment content that was in the bread, the purer it is, and the more expensive it would be sold for. So there are things that we take for granted today that they didn't have the privilege or luxury back then. But when you study these things, you get to see a lot of interesting things. But along with the wheat, barley, you also have the grape, your figs, your pomegranates, your honey dates, right? Your olives, right? These are all other things that were supplemental to their diet, things that they ate along with the grains and along with the meat that they ate. Okay, so there's a couple of sources that go in depth into this. And then what I'm doing now is using the current template that was laid down by these two Igbo authors, right, who identify as Israelites and who have written books on this cultural comparative analysis, right, and taking that information and using that and looking at what we have accessibility to today in our environment and our circumstances. Because when I went back and I went over Vayikra chapter 11 with y'all and I explained to y'all the adjectival nouns, which is the attributes that we can take and apply anywhere. And when you do that, now you've created a form of halakha, but it hasn't been standardized for best practices to implement within our community so that we are all agreeing upon it. We're all doing it collectively and we're all benefiting from it. So that way we can be autonomous and we don't have to adopt the ways of those outside of our community in order for us to have higher self-esteem and be able to validate ourselves as a people. See, when you start to do things like this and develop this type of halakha, it changes the game for our community. We are not having these discussions. But going back and look at the foods, how do we know what foods today are clean or unclean? Where does understanding come from? Have y'all done the research, right, and look at excavation reports from archaeologists that are there excavating in what we call Israel, Palestine, and looking at the various animals that are there and what's considered to have been food, right, and eaten by the people, and what was considered to be something that died of a natural death? You get to see what the diet was like. So I'm going to show you these two references, and then I'm going to show you these articles really briefly, just so you can get an idea, and then I'm going to go in depth with it when I do my session this weekend. All right. So here's the reference for these two books. Let me go ahead and show this to y'all real quick. Give me 1 second. All right. Okay, Don, I'm not addressing that right now. Shout out to my brother Uzi Yahoo in the building. Basic instructions to become liberated on earth. That was from his breathing room lecture that you can find on my Facebook page. All right, just go into videos and you'll see his video in there. But anyway, yeah, so we're not going to deal with that. So Don, please stay on subject, right? We're not going to deal with Dane Calloway right now. I'm not talking about that right now. Let's keep the conversation based on what is being discussed right now. All right, no problem, Don. I could probably deal with that another time, but we're not going to deal with that right now. Kenyan, yes, that's the explanation of the acronym ADOS, which is American Descendants of Slaves, or you could say slavery, right? So I'm gonna show you the two sources of people who did the comparative cultural analysis between the ancient Israelite practices, the Jewish practices, and the Igbo practices, right? So I'm gonna show you those things, and then I'm gonna show you the articles that go more in depth in outlining the different foods between the two groups and how we can use this understanding to create a method in which for us to determine what is clean and unclean and what is the best diet for our genetic disposition. All right, because every ethnic group people, there is a ethnic diet that was practiced by their ancestors based on looking at things that work, things that don't work, and the results of it, and being able to take that information and pass it down to successive information so that way they can maintain their health. That's what we see when we read the scriptures in Vayikra chapter 11. All right. But adjectival nouns was designed so that way attributes can be extracted and applied to your immediate environment so that you know what is clean, what is not clean. And then in some instances, some foods will have to be consumed, which may seem to violate Vayikra chapter 11, but it's done based on survival or whatever you have accessibility to in your environment. You have to be able to make the best decision. All right. So with that being said, I'm gonna show you this real quick, and then we out of here. We'll show you these sources, and then we're done. Okay. Let me pull this up real quick. All right. Let me start off with this book and this book. All right. So let me show it to y'all real quick. Hold on. Let me share my screen. All right. So this is one of the books that does a comparative cultural analysis between Igbo food and traditions and practices and ancient Israelite. And what it does is that it goes over, it says the Igbo observes religiously diet purity as stated in Leviticus chapter 11. There are clean and unclean animals, birds and insects. Domesticated animals that have split hoof, completely divided and choose to cut like cows and goats or normal Igbo livestock. Not until modern times that pasteurized milk is consumed. The Igbo do not drink milk sourced from animals. They eat only fish with scales and fins, and they also may eat, though rarely, selective insects like cricket and grasshoppers. It says, as mentioned, Leviticus chapter 11, 20 to 23, because like in ancient Israel, locusts was consumed and eaten as well. All right. But then he goes on more deeply. Now, mind you, he's doing the comparative cultural analysis for us, right? And then what you got to do is really got to look at the sources that that speak on the Iron Age Israelite diet. And then you got to look at the sources, the academic sources that look at the traditional Igbo diet. And you got to have those two sources, and then you get this as the bridge to connect these things to see whether or not, to validate whether or not these conclusions is correct or incorrect. And then you actually got to go and speak to people who are experts in these respective fields to be able to add more collective data before you make your decision or create your halakha. Okay. So this book right here, all right, this goes into the food. Like I said, I'll get into that with y'all, this weekend. But just so you can see this book is here, Igbo Israel, Comparison of Igbo and Ancient Israel's Culture, right, by O.D. Mogalu, all right, a comparison of Igbo and Ancient Israel's Culture, all right. Then we have another one here, right, Enni, which is Igbo food, and this also goes deep into it, right. It says, is it not funny that some neighbors of the Igbo has described the Igbos as grass eaters? To those neighbors whose diet did not contain much vegetables, if any at all, the great love the Igbos have for vegetables seems strange. Well, before Western education came to Nigeria, Nigerians or the people living around the Igbos benefited from its teachings on the advantages of including green vegetables in their diets. The Igbos have been eating vegetables. In fact, most of the Igbo diet is vegetable-based, okay? And then he goes into, again, breaking down what all of that is. And then he gets into the scriptures as well and makes the comparative cultural analysis. Okay. So again, we'll get into that another time. I'm going to show you what this source is. This source is here. The Igbos in Israel, an intercultural study of the oldest and largest Jewish diaspora. I have a problem with that word Jewish, but if you read it, you understand the context in which it's being used, by Remy Alona, right? So both of these, like him, I speak to him, and this author I've spoken to. So I've spoken to these authors, right? And I always seek to do that. If I see a book that's good and if I can contact the author, I will do so to ask additional questions to clear some things up I'm not familiar with. And hopefully the author is generous enough with their time to be able to answer and address these matters, and they both were. So I appreciate both of these brothers for doing that, all right? So I'm going to close this out, right? And that's the last step. The first step is to examine ancient Israel's diet by looking into the scriptures and archaeology. The second step is going to the Igbo sources, academic sources, to look for information that pertains to their diet. And then you go to the comparative cultural analysis to see how they compare the two, and then you validate the information from that comparative cultural analysis, and then from there you have a template to assign to our current disposition to try and decide what is the best foods for us to eat. So in this case, I'm gonna go here with y'all. Here's an article. This is from the Digital Access to Scholarship at Harvard, the Jewish Dietary Laws and Their Foundation, right? And this is from Harvard. So I try to get the best sources as I can. It's created in 1994 by Professor P.B. Hutt, the Jewish Dietary Laws and Their Foundation. It's a great work. I'm not going to go into it right now, but again, I'll probably touch on it, you know, when I do the live stream this session, right? This weekend. The second one is here. This is page 279. I'm going to scroll up here. This is from a book called Archaeology and History of 8th Century Judah, edited by Zev I. Farber and Yaakov L. Wright, all right, from Ancient Near East Monographs from the Society of Biblical Literature, right? And this is also a great book, right? This just came out last year. This is a really good book. And it goes into a whole host of different things. Judah's neighbors near and far. And you have different papers that are essays that's written by different authors, right, that are in that field, the land of Judah. But what I'm concerned with in this regard has to do with the diet. That's going to be page 279. And it's called He Shall Eat Curds and Honey, Isaiah 7:15, Food and Feasting in Late 8th Century Judah by Cynthia Schaffer Elliott, right? So if we scroll down to 279, which I was at, and go to 279, and we read this, they go in depth as it pertains to the diet. Now, before they go that, they give you an abstract, go into the scholarship, give you the methodology. I mean, this thing is thorough. Textual resources, material culture, and household archaeology, which you have to examine you got to examine concurrently with the scriptures. Excuse me. This is why interdisciplinary studies is extremely valuable for us restoring our culture. And then when you go into this, she goes into the analysis, and then she gets into the diet, and then she breaks it down here. Food preparation technology that they had back then, using the scriptures for references, and archaeology, goes into meals for baking, meals for cooking. All right, goes into just extremely deep into the feast and what they ate when they had their feast. Conclusion, give you some figures for you to look at. This is really in depth, and is a great analytical work for us to study ancient Israel's diet, right, in the Iron Age period, right? That's another source. Another source is Ancient Trash Reveals the Eating Habits of Jews 2,000 years ago, and it's called Make No Bones About It. All right, this is from Food History, the Kosher Issue. All right, and in here, this is by Lawrence H. Schiffman, and he also goes into the ancient diet as well. And you know, you see food storage vessels, etc. And again, I'll probably go into this then. This is really not that long. It's a 6-page, you know, art magazine extraction. This is from page, I think, page 158 to 163. All right, from this magazine, the Ami magazine, November 15, 2017. All right. Then we have here The Ancient Diet of Roman Palestine by Susan Weingarten. And this is also a great in-depth analysis of food. And this is where you learn about the grinding of stone mills, how you get grit in the bread, etc. Right? And they draw a lot from archaeology and a lot from the Talmud, right? And also from first century Greco-Roman authors or historians, right? And they do a great job of get you to understand what the diet was during that period of time, right? And you even show images of what the oil press is. You know, you see the grind right here. This is from Egypt, Misraim, and then you see the homemade, you know, grinding mill. You have a stone mill up here. This was done at home. This was done in the city area. And then it breaks everything down to you so that you can understand what their diet actually consisted of. So we have this data from ancient Israel. We have this data, right? And this article here is called The Igbo Traditional Food System Documented in 4 States in Southern Nigeria. All right, Department of Home Science, Nutrition and Dietetics, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, Nigeria. Also from the social science unit, from the School of General Studies, the Bio Resources Development and Conservation Program, UNN Nigeria, the International Center for Ethnomedicine and Drug Discovery, Department of Crop Science, and the Center for Rural Development and Cooperatives. So again, as you can see, all these PhDs have contributed to it, from people who are indigenous to that area, who are Igbos, that contributing to this academically. This is the type of source material that we need to look at in order for us to formulate the best halakha to implement today in our diaspora. All right. Extremely important looking at this data to create our own halakha. All right. We're not rewriting the Torah. The written Torah still stands. That's the foundation, but we got to build on top of that so we know how to rightly apply it. All right. So I'll go into this further when I do my live stream. I'm about to go right now. It's 1 o'clock. All right. So I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this session and I was able to contribute some information that is able to help somebody out there. Please share this video so our community can get better exposed to it, so that way it can help build and edify them as well. I love all of y'all. Thank you for taking time. Shout out to High pH or High Frequency with a PH in the building. Shalom, sis. Shalom to Nisi's Pieces in the building. Thank you also for your support as always. Jetson Silencio as well in the building. I think I got everybody. Muck Muck the General. Appreciate you for joining in as well. Calvin Riley, appreciate you as well. My brother Brian Williams in the building. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Peace to you as well. Yeshar Yahawada, shalom to you as well. And I think I got everybody. Bakar the Israelite. And I think that's everybody. So again, family, I appreciate y'all. Hopefully this information was encouraging, edifying, uplifting, empowering, and equipping to you guys. Like I said, I will go more in depth with this information when I do my next live stream. I'm gonna do my best to do it this Friday and Saturday. Just keep in mind I had a loss in the family, so I'm trying to support my family in the process. So if you guys don't see a live stream from me this weekend, it's probably because we're prepping for the funeral. But after that, I should be back to normal as far as this program. I'm still going to be impacted that my aunt is not here, but I'm going to do my best to be consistent and try to give you all my all in these sessions so you guys can make the most of it. This video obviously is going to be saved in archives, so you can go back and check it and watch it if you miss any of it. But I do appreciate you guys. I see you guys are interested in a cancer seminar, so I'm going to definitely do that. Put that together formally for y'all and do that. If you're interested in any kind of health assistance, naturopathic eating at gmail.com. You can scroll up in the chat. You'll see it in there. If you want to do any donations to KHM or to Divine Prospect, you know what I'm saying, you guys can do so. It's all going to be listed in the description, all right, of the video. All right. So thank you guys for watching. I love you guys. I'm going to speak to you all again soon. Please keep me in your prayers, and I'll keep you in prayers as well. If we can support you in any way, and you need any kind of assistance, hit us up at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. Again, that will be in the description when this video is over. All right. Love you guys. Appreciate y'all. Peace and shalom.